Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
You know, we could actually speak of Jesus' entire life and all of the message that he brought in one word. And that word would be love. Love. The one word would describe his entire life, all that he did. It encompasses the pure divine creative, accepting, the unconditional love, and the God love. His life connected us with that love, that divine light. People typically do not believe things until they feel them. They will listen to the teacher and say, yeah, I got that. I'll memorize that for you. But they typically don't know how to embody things until they actually experience it themselves. And Jesus' life, that love, was about creating an experience for the people. It defies description, what he brought to us. But we feel him, and we feel him, we feel God. You understand what I'm saying? In those moments of prayer and meditation, when you feel the presence of Jesus Christ with you, you can feel the beautiful energy of the divine. The connection is a gift, and anyone can receive it. We connect with him, we're one with God. We are one with God, even though we may not have evolved in consciousness to hold the God awareness. We are one with God, even though we might not have evolved in consciousness to hold that God awareness. He harmonizes us with the God frequency. He becomes a conduit, a bridge, a pattern. He said, I brought immortality to light and printed a rainbow on the walls of time for the sons of men. So what I do, all men shall do. And I wanted to read in 176, the gospel of the resurrection of the dead is not confined to Jew and Greek. It is the heritage of every man of every time and clime, and I am here a demonstration of the power of man. I am not myth, I am flesh and bone. And this is what he said after he arose, before he ascended. And he showed people his physical body, and it says he talked with them for a long time. I go my way, but you shall go to the world and preach the gospel of the omnipotence of man, the power of truth, and the resurrection of the dead. You know those words, you've heard them a million times. But what do they really mean to us? Jesus came like us to show us we could be like him. So he was born as an infant, a baby. He came like us to show us we could be like him. He walked with mankind, and he allowed the Christ to demonstrate through him, the Christ of consciousness, the divine of God, moving through him. In the physical, he healed bodies. He manifested. He actually worked with the elements. He controlled the elements. He walked on water. He calmed the storm. He put out the fires. He did all of these things as a human being walking on the planet, showing mankind what they could do if they chose, if they could focus. Then, in the totality, he was allowing the divine to express through the human. On Palm Sunday, which we talked about last week, when he entered Jerusalem, it was the first time that race consciousness bowed to the Christ. So the Christ came, and race consciousness bowed, and they celebrated him, and they wanted to listen to him. And you should listen to last week's service. It gives you a lot of details about what happened. But then, toward the end, Thursday, Friday, Jesus allowed himself to be taken, and he allowed his energy to bow so that he could go into the depths of the lower consciousness of man. He allowed himself to become small so that the consciousness of mankind would be greater. By right of vibration, we know that had he walked in as the normal man that he had been demonstrating, it wouldn't have worked. When they came to get him in the garden, this is Gethsemane. At Gethsemane, we know that he lowered his frequency. We know that he left the Lord's Supper, the Last Supper, with the disciples. He went into the garden to pray. He taught and taught and taught. Then he pulled away. And he began to pray, and as he did, he was lowering his frequency so that the events would have occurred. Because before this time, if they had tried to strike him, he would have just gone away. By right of vibration, they had no power over him. If anything had tried to come at him, it would have by right of vibration been repelled. So he had to make himself very, very small. And that's why he struggled to submit to the consciousness of the people that were around him. And in the garden, remember in the story when the garden, after he was finished meditating and he said it's time, and he got all of his disciples ready, and then Caiaphas and Ananias and all the Jews and the soldiers came, and Judas was with them. And Jesus said, "Who do you seek?" And they said, "We seek Jesus, the man from Galilee." And he said, "I am he." And he sent a thought out that sent light so bright, it illuminated the garden. And everybody was so afraid. And some of them ran in fear, some of them hit their knees. And then Jesus consciously said, "Gotta get smaller." It doesn't tell us in the scripture, but he was still too big. He was repelling them. So he breathed. And then he said calmly, "Who do you seek?" again. And when they said again, Jesus, the man of Galilee, he said, "I am he." And he said it small. Do you see the demonstration? In the Christed consciousness, none of this could have happened. But he got small, he got little, he got small, so that he could allow this event to occur. The race had let him in when Palm Sunday. Now he allowed himself to take the light of the Christ to the deepest, most self-serving, power-focused, controlling energy of the human psyche. He moved into that space, which he could never have gone to before. So, the seed could be planted throughout mankind. The only way was underneath their energies. So he got small to come underneath them. Spirit said he submitted to the human experience so the divine truth could plant. The people of that day and time could only see what they could comprehend. And even after he left, what they remembered of him was what they saw, and they saw the miracles. They saw that he could use God's power to create miracles because he manifested and he healed. And that was okay because in their history of the Jewish faith, God had done miracles. Okay, check, that's okay. I can perceive that. They also could perceive Jesus' last commandment, which was love. Love one another as I have loved you. Love one another as you love yourselves. And they went, okay, God loves us, Jesus loves us, it's acceptance, it's safety, it's all of these things. Check. I can do that. That's not in contradiction to the Jewish faith that I came through. Got it. So he was easily able to plant the idea of miracles and love. That was their perception of him. But what else was he doing? What deeper thing was actually happening that they could not see? What if Jesus knew so much more? You know, science is telling us so much in today. Science tells us so many wonderful things. They tell us that we don't even touch things, like bouncing a basketball, that we are not really even touching the ball, that our energy field is interacting with the energy field of the ball, but the matter doesn't touch. What? Patrick told me something many years ago, many years ago. He said, the color of a flower is determined by the pigment that it does not have inside. What? This is many years ago. We've known this for years. That a flower has little pigment pockets inside of it, and I'm making this very simplistic. The light bands come into the flower, and that which it has within it is absorbed, and that which it does not have within it is reflected out. Yet, do we really say, oh my, that flower is lacking the most beautiful blue I've ever seen? And look at the unpink ones. And that flower is desperate for red. We don't. We don't talk this way because it takes a while for knowledge to become part of consciousness. We know these facts, we know these things, but is it a part of our consciousness? We still say the sun rises and sets, but it doesn't. We are turning. We don't say, oh, it's my turn once again to shine. The sun is shining upon me. I'm waking up. It's my turn again. We say, no, the sun has risen and the sun has set. And we know better. Knowledge. It takes a while before knowledge can be integrated into consciousness. Everybody breathe. Think of this master soul coming to the planet. What if he knew all that science is going to reveal to us? What if he knew us as a beautiful energy planet? What if he knew us as all of these things? A master soul coming to the planet. He was coming to a level of consciousness that had held a limited perspective, which was governed by fear for thousands of years. Thousands of years, a limited perspective governed by fear. How is he going to lift them up? And this is what Spirit said. Jesus took the seed of knowledge, energy of perfect creative love into the depths. And in the last day, we go from Gethsemane, and then we go to the Sanhedrin, where he is judged. We go to Pilate, where he is judged. Pilate doesn't want to judge him, but Pilate eventually washes his hands, which is judgment. He goes to Herod, and he is judged. And he is judged by the rabble. He's judged. And what do we know for a fact? What you judge, you attach to. You attach to. So, every one of them attached to this man, every one of them, Pilate, the Romans, the aggressor, the conquerors of Rome, were attached to Jesus. Caiaphas, Ananias, the Sanhedrin, the Jewish rule, the faith, the priests were attached to Jesus. Herod, the kings, the governors, the puppet beings that ruled were attached to Jesus. And the rabble that screamed, crucify him, it was very, very early in the morning. Any normal person was still asleep. But they had been paid, and they were gathered, and they were screaming to Pilate, crucify him, crucify him. These were people who would bargain for bread. They had no sense of power. You gonna pay me? Oh, I'll yell loud, really loud. They attached to him. They attached to him. Not only did they, but everyone who celebrated was already attached to him. Everybody who loved him was already attached to him. Everybody who saw him as child of God was already attached to him. The common people who felt the earthquake, the soldiers as he passed, they were all attached to him. Each individual was attached, but also the level of consciousness that they represented was attached. And this is what he did. He took the vibration of all of these beings, those that loved and those that disdained. They were with him. And when he said, Father, into thy hands I commend my spirit, everybody went. There was a link and an energy to God where all of the beings that were attached to him through hate or love were now connected with Spirit. They were now connected with God. He had taken the idea and the energy of the Christ and planted it deep in the deepest consciousness. Now, had he done his work at their level of consciousness, he wouldn't have been able to. He did his work where he needed to do his work, but the very last day, at the very last hour, this all happened in less than 24 hours. In less than 24 hours, he was able to affix to all of these levels of consciousness. And then he took them to God. How powerful is this? How powerful is this? If we believe the sun rises and sets yet, we will not see what he did. But if we begin to open our eyes to the energy of what occurred, we can see this connection that occurred in consciousness. He connected all of them to the vine. When the light broke, they felt his absence when he died. It says that in the tomb, he did not sleep, but he went into the space to talk to the souls that were lost. In the Jewish faith, there was a place called Sheol, where they believed that you just existed in the nothingness. He went and talked to them, and not only in the Jewish faith, other faiths had these places of limbo, and he would talk to these people and tell them, you're eternal, wake up, you're eternal. So he connected with them. He talked to the masters on the other side, connected with them. He was able to, in those days in the tomb, connect with all varying levels of consciousness. Don't you think that moment that he arose, it was pretty powerful? Don't you think that moment when he was able to, that Sunday morning, the angels were walking around, the angels were making the energy vibration strong for him, rolled the stone away, and he was able to open his eyes in this physical body and say, peace, goodwill to men, to all the soldiers that were outside. peace, goodwill to men. What human mind, how would a human mind define that? A miracle? Sure. What would a energy mind see? Maybe there's more than matter. He opened the door for our perception to the greater. Everyone was affected the minute he woke up. Everybody that had connected with him was affected when he opened his eyes. They all felt it energetically. Whether they could put their finger on it or define it, they felt it because they were attached to him. How wonderful that must have been, I would think. And then when he first woke up and he was walking through the garden and he met the girls, we all know the stories. Mary went to him and said, thought he was the gardener. Where's my Lord? I can't find him. He's not in the tomb. And he said, Mary. And he opened her eyes and she could see that it was him. He was in a body that was not yet, it was being transformed. It was not yet like he used to look. He no longer had the human consciousness. He no longer had the human emotional body. He no longer had those aspects. He had the divine vibration. And if you've ever seen an angel in meditation or in reality, they don't have an emotional body either. They have a divine body. And then, the next day, his disciples saw him, flesh and blood. He ate with them. They touched his body. And he said to them, I come to you in a body familiar, but I can actually take any body I want. This is scriptural. It's been with us for 2,000 years, but do we even look at it? Do we look at it? I can take any body I want. I'm familiar. One of my favorite stories of after the resurrection, before the ascension, is when he goes to the temple. And he looks like a regular little fisherman. He's just a fisherman. And he starts, Caiaphas is there, and Ananias is there, and all the people who judged him at the Sanhedrin. Oh, he asks about that Jesus, and everyone says, oh, that Jesus, that bad man, where have you been? We crucified him. Really? You did? Yeah. And people say he rose from the dead, but he didn't. And the fisherman said, really? Is there anyone here that will attest that they saw his disciples steal him and that he didn't rise from the dead? Was there anyone here that will say that he was stolen, like you're saying, instead of rising from the dead? And everyone was silent. The light again occurred, and who did they see? He showed them the form that was familiar to them, and he said, here I am, flesh and bone. Do you want to touch me? And then he said to them, what? Peace. Peace, goodwill to man. I'm not here to judge you guys. I'm showing you something. Can you see me? Will you look at me? Peace, goodwill to man. Don't you think that shook Caiaphas to his core? Yes, I think it probably did. I create myself in any way I want. And then at some point, right before the ascension, he became one with God. What do we do with all of this information? He was showing us spirit over matter. They saw in his demonstration that there was indeed life after death. That was the third thing that they learned. They learned about miracles, they learned about love, and they learned about life after death. Are those not the three tenets that Christianity holds to? But what about the rest of it? But I wanted to share with you a few more energy things. He said, I must go before he ascended, for if I do not go, the Comforter cannot come. Why would he call it a comforter? Because that's what they understood. It's a spirit that will teach you. It's a spirit that's always one with God. It's a spirit that has full of knowledge and can guide you and teach you and keep you connected to divine mind. And if I go and become one with the Father, I will be able to stay with you to the end of time. Because when he left and became one with the Father, he became omniscient, everywhere present, omnipotent. On the earth plane, he was a localized master. When he ascended, he became one with God. Everyone on the planet at any time can say Jesus in their meditation and feel his presence. It's omnipresent. Everywhere present. It's omnipotent. It's omniscient. Breathe it in. Jesus harmonized all of us with the divine attributes of God. Now, can we hold those attributes of God? Do we try? Okay. What are we going to do with all of this? It takes a while for knowledge to become part of consciousness. What are we going to do with this? If we leave Christianity at just, God loves us, God does miracles, and there is life after death, what kind of life are you going to have here? A mortally focused experience. But if we can look at the energy, the greatest demonstration that we have record of, the energy that was demonstrated. And I know Jesus knew all of the science that we're finding now. I know he did. He had to plant this vibration in the soul of mankind and race consciousness. And it took us 2,000 years for it starting to grow. Maybe we wouldn't have the science we have if he hadn't. Maybe we wouldn't have woken up if he hadn't. Metaphysically, we say that Jesus bathed the earth with an energy of divine love, and that he created a pathway for us all to walk home, conscious of our own energy and our own divinity. The sun does not rise. We turn. Jesus is not just the Christ who builds a bridge so you can go home. This is what Spirit said. He is a master who came to move this illusion into a reality of love. This is an illusion, and he knew it. He knew it. He knows. And the more science studies, the more science moves into the other dimensions and the other levels of consciousness, you know who they're going to run into? Right smack into? Oh, do tell. Jesus. The embodiment of the human consciousness that was able to vibrate with God love, God consciousness. They're going to run right into that consciousness. Don't know what form he will take, but he'll be saying, you guys made it. Good to see ya. Glad you made it. Now, let's see what we can do with this. What can we do with all this great knowledge? What can we do with understanding? Divinity, love, creation is energy. What can we create better? He said, if I be lifted up, bring all men unto me. Does that mean anything different to you right now? If I be lifted up, I bring all men unto me. He lifted us all. Every Easter, we are bathed in this divine light. We don't talk about it like we do the Christmas angels, but the Easter angels come with us as well. It's not as dynamic a celebration because we don't build toward it and buy gifts for one another and do the great gifting and call our loved ones together. But in spirit, it is as powerful. The angels that went around the tomb, the angels that set the vibrational frequency to assist even Jesus in the transformation, are making their turn around us, around the world, around mankind, so that we too can have that moment of lifting into that divine consciousness. You are a child of God. I'm a child of God. I'm an awesome child of God. I'm an awesome child of God.
I'm an awesome child of God.
Thank you. Thank you, Patrick. Everybody say it.
I'm an awesome child of God.
Just knowing that, what can you do? And it doesn't mean you walk out with your wand of light and you become the magic man. It means you be aware of the power and the impact you have, and you walk toward love. How amazing is that? Well, let's go within and let's take this energy into our core. Father, Mother God, I ask that you bless each one here. And I welcome those wonderful angels of Easter. Welcome those wonderful angels that lift us and take us into those new spaces. Just breathe. And I ask that a column of light come over each person, so they are held in their individual space. They are held in a space of their own consciousness. And I would invite each one of you just to see the color, see the energy. And I want you to just realize you are sitting in a vibration of your own soul, your own consciousness. Feel, see, or sense this vibration, and let your focus go to your heart. And just in your heart say, I want to love more. And see what happens from the heart center into the column of light. See greater love moving from your own very heart into the column of light. Just by wanting to love more. And now feel the presence of Jesus Christ just coming into your space, taking you by the hand, and just lifting you up. Feel yourself lifting up into a beautiful space that opens in front of you, full of light. And become aware of those beautiful Easter angels, the angels that hold the vibration of mankind Christing. And step forward and greet them. One will step forward and take your hand. I want to know more about life. Just say that if you can to them in your heart. I want to know more. And if you are ready to transform, take a breath. I am ready to receive this beautiful healing energy that will help me resurrect my body, mind, and spirit. I am ready. And feel the angelic energy engulfing you. Feel the angel that's holding your hand with you. And just let the energy come into your body. However it comes in is perfect for you. If there is a color or a shape or an energy feeling, it's perfect. Take it in. God, I am ready. I am ready to transform the cells of my body, my consciousness, my beingness, to that of light. Feel the light surrounding you and the love. And as it ebbs, the angel steps back. And you hear the words, I am with you always. I want you to turn and look at Jesus Christ, and I want you to just look and feel, how do I take this back? How do I take this back to my body, to my physical, to my world? And just see the Christ smile at you. Just be love, he says. Just be love. I want you to move to him again. You can hug him, take his hand, whatever you want to do. It is easy. Be love. And get back in your beautiful column of light, the energy of your soul, of your spirit, and very gently let yourself come back. Coming down the column of light until you can feel or sense your body sitting in your chair. Father, Mother God, we thank you that we are one with you in all things. And we ask to see with the eyes of God. We ask to feel the divine creative force in us. We ask to help make this world a reality of love. And we thank you. And take a breath. Send your love into the room. When you're ready, gently open your eyes. Wonderful, beautiful children of God. We are going to laugh so hard when we cross over. We're going to say, do you remember when I was so afraid? And you're going to say to me, I remember that, Cindy, and we're going to laugh so hard. And then we'll see how many times we were able to love, how many times we were able to stand in pure faith and knowing that certain things are not that important. And we'll high-five each other and say, good job, you did good. Well, I invite you to be aware of the Christmas angels. Those two. Be aware of the Easter angels this day and this week as you walk. Remember your energy. Even as you go out for your day, look in the mirror. Call forth your divinity. I choose to have the light body of my higher self. Take that out with you. Share that with the world. I know it's a tall order. It's a tall order. But the sun does not rise. Say, yea, God.
Yea, God.